everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of It's Our House podcast with Faz and Deez. I'm Faz and he is Deez. How are you, mate?
I'm really good, my friend. I've been really looking forward to this one. It was one that we had to unfortunately rearrange, but I'm glad we got to do it again.
Yes, I'm really excited. And really, today we have a man who doesn't need an introduction, but he's going to get one. He's the Ring of Honor top of the class trophy winner. He's a Ring of Honor tag team champion and one of the best to come out of the Ring of Honor Wrestling Academy. It is Rhett Titus. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey guys, thank you for having me very much. I greatly appreciate it. I'm sitting at my house right now, and thank you for welcoming me to your house.
Yes, we've welcomed quite a few people to our house, but you are definitely one we've been really looking forward to, my friend, so thank you.
Likewise.
Excellent. So what we'll do is we'll jump straight into the questions. What we like to kind of do is have an icebreaker, just settle everyone's nerves a bit. So what we'd like to ask you is, if you could have anyone, past or present, manage you, who would it be and why?
Well, normally I'd probably say Jim Cornette, but I've gotten to be managed by Jim Cornette before, so on a MCW show back in 2008. So that was pretty cool, especially, being a big fan of tag team wrestling. I learned a lot from it. But I guess if it's someone that I wasn't ever managed by, probably Bobby the Brain Heenan. I mean,
great choice. Good choice.
When you think about pro wrestling managers,
that's what you think about.
Bobby Heenan, he's right there up at the top. So that would definitely be...
He made everyone he was with, didn't he? He was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, the Heenan family was amazing, So many different characters, but somehow it all came together. So, yeah.
It all worked.
Bobby, if you're thinking of managers, you think Heenan, Heyman, and Cornette, really. Like, they're the go-to, the iconic.
Yeah. Those would be probably my top three. Maybe different order, but but
yeah, man.
Those are my top three as well.
Cool. Right. So what I want to jump straight into is go back to the start. Go back to your early days. You've been in Ring of Honor for such a long time, and it was a good few years ago now, obviously, because he's been in WWE pretty much ever since. But I want to know what it was like for you training with Daniel Bryan, especially as you were a younger guy, fairly new to the business. Bryan seems to have been wrestling forever. He's one of those guys who just doesn't seem to age. He's always been wrestling, and he's obviously one of the best in the world as well. Still, even to this day, one of the best in the world to do it. So, what was it like training with him? What did you learn from him? I've read that you weren't the biggest fan of training with him at the time, but looking back on it now, how important was that time with Daniel Bryan for you?
Yeah, so like you said, I was very young training with Daniel Bryan and very young in my wrestling career as well. So I had already been trained, at the ROH dojo by Austin Aries at that point. So this was like an advanced class, but like I was pretty much, only like a year or so in, and not too like advanced for Bryan's class. I would love to go to it now, now, knowing all the stuff that I know now, and like, but at the time, like it was just like next level training, and it was definitely a little harder than just regular training. It wasn't just, hey, show up and let's do some drills and do this and that. It was very rigorous, and it was very made you think a lot. And the cool thing about Bryan was, Bryan was like never like, you look at Bryan and you're like, all right, well, where's like all his like really bad matches? You go back to like his TWA stuff from, if you ever seen any of that when he was wearing the mask and all, those were all still really good matches. But, and Bryan expected a lot as a coach, but, and I was young and like I was kind of like the class clown at times, so Bryan always liked to pick on me, and I just made life harder for myself, but it's all good. last time I seen Brian, you know, he was asking how everybody was doing, and it was always a good guy, Brian. Always appreciated him.
I love it, love it. He's one of them, isn't he? He's always got like his brain ticking over. You can see it in his eyes. He's always thinking about the next thing, isn't he?
Great ring IQ. Yeah. One of the best for ring IQ, I would say. Yeah. Do you are you still in touch with Brian? Do you still speak to him nowadays?
No, not really. You know, once guys kind of like get into that WWE like bubble, I don't really like to bother people too much because they seem like they're really busy, and
yeah, no, know, I get you. I get you.
But
talking about,
I never want to feel like that guy who's like, you know, you're like reaching out to somebody because they want something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. You've always got to watch that line, haven't you?
Yeah. Can I just ask? Sorry, Faz. Can I just say, because you mentioned Austin Aries there, and I'll be honest, I didn't know that you actually trained with Austin Aries. I mean, he's another guy that seems to have been wrestling just like Brian for absolutely forever. He's been everywhere and he's done everything. Was he sort of similar to Brian? Did they have different styles or?
Yeah, they definitely had different styles because you know, when I showed up to my original training with Austin Aries, he was like, hey, you know, I'm not your personal trainer. I'm not going to sit here and make you guys do a lot of squats and push-ups. You know, obviously we had to do some, you know, just for, you know, the respect of getting into the wrestling ring and that sort of thing. You know, it just wasn't given to us or anything. But, but he's like, I'm your wrestling trainer. I'm here to teach you wrestling. So we're going to spend our time doing mostly wrestling. Brian, on the other hand, you know, lots of squats, lots of push-ups, lots of cardio. I remember one time Brian was like, all right, everybody's going to pick an exercise to do today, and we're going to have to, you know, we'll do it. And, like, it came to my turn, and, like, we had already done push-ups and squats and, you know, like, whatever, like, crazy thing Brian could think of. And it came to my turn, and I was like, let's do jumping jacks. trying to think of something easy to give us a break or whatever. And Brian's like, oh, jumping jacks. All right. So then we had to do 10 minutes of jumping jacks. And then not only 10 minutes of jumping jacks, we had to do 10 minutes of jumping jacks in the ring as well. So,
nice.
And I think there was like three or four other guys in the ring with me at the time. So if you guys ever jumped in a wrestling ring before, there's a little give to it. But the thing is, if you jump in at the wrong time, you can like really like mess yourself up. Like if you're jumping at the wrong edge of the bounce. So we all had to like jump and synchronize together to make sure that the ring
10
was
minutes. Jesus.
Yeah, so man, everybody was cursing me that day.
That kind of shatters the whole like, oh, Daniel Bryan's such a nice guy image, doesn't it? Like, no, he's not. He's not a good guy at all.
Well, like I said, I was like the class clown, like, you know, so I deserved it, you know.
We've spoken to a few guys from Ring of Honor. Obviously, we've had STP on, Kenny King. But what's it like been working, obviously, within your Ring of Honor bubble? Obviously, with the pandemic, you know, how do you find it personally? Do you think Ring of Honor are handling things really well? And were there any difficulties that you've had to go through as part of it?
I mean, from the moment that you know, the whole pandemic started and that sort of thing, Ring of Honor has handled this all exceptionally well. Yeah. I was actually flying out to Las Vegas on my wedding anniversary, and I got off the plane, and I bumped into Grizzly Redwood and Cheeseburger, and they're like, hey, did you read your email yet? And I was like, no, why? And they're like, oh, the show's been canceled. And I was like, whoa, you know. Jesus. Just, you know, and there was a pay-per-view and there was a live stream and TV taping. So, you know, just the amount of money to, you know, for the satellite feeds and to fly everybody out there and all the hotels,
exactly,
catering and this and that. It's just a lot of money that they're just like, all right, you know, we're not even going to risk it. You know, which, you know, is respectful, you know. Definitely. And, they paid extra money to get us flights home earlier, you know, and then they continued to pay us all while we were just sitting at home. You know, they're like,
Amazing.
hey, we don't know anything about this disease yet, because at the, you know, everybody now, there's the testing and the, you know, the quarantine time, but when it first happened, nobody really knew anything, so they weren't going to just put us out there to, you know, figure it out on our own. You know, they were just sitting us at home, paying us, and, you know, people that weren't even under contracts were still getting paid too for shows that they were supposed to be booked on. So, and then finally in August, when they've, you know, things kind of slowed down a little bit, and they found out more about the virus and all that sort of thing, they brought us back, but it's a lengthy it's not easy to get in. So basically you got to take a test prior to even leaving your house, and you got to pass that, and then you get to the hotel, the bubble as we like to call it, where basically everybody has their own room, and you're not allowed any visitors or anything like that. All your, you know, you got to order in your food. You can't go out to a restaurant or anything like that. And you take a test when you get there, and then another test before you wrestle, and then you got temperature check at the door. Have to fill out a questionnaire, so just in case you're not feeling under the weather or something. And then also you have a different canvas for each match. Wow. So yeah, and then the ropes and everything is cleaned down in between. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's very, very expensive. And so the like a regular TV taping for Ring of Honor, as opposed to the bubble is about 3 times more the amount that a regular TV taping costs. So so, you know, they're really sparing no expense to make everybody feel safe, and you know,
they really
it's
are.
cool,
I mean, everyone we spoke to has said the same thing, to be honest. I mean, we've spoken to a few people from all different type of companies, but I think the one thing that we've seen from ROH talent is that it's the respect, you know, for the fact that they've done all that for you. As you said, they didn't have to pay you, especially the non-contracted people. They didn't have to pay.
Yeah. And like, it's funny because, like, you know, during a pandemic, you're rolling around with all these wrestlers at like a TV taping over the bubble, you know, wrestling this guy, wrestling that guy. And then you come home, and like usually like on an indie show when you're wrestling, you're thinking like, oh man, like gotta go get tested and so on and so forth, you know, but you come home and you have like this peace of mind, because like literally like every
step,
everything they can do to make you feel safe, they do. And so far so good. There's been no cases coming out of the bubbles or tapings, and anybody that has gotten it, they've, you know, figured it out beforehand. So, and brilliant. You know, made sure that they weren't there. So they've really been very safe about all of this. So hopefully things keep progressing, and that we can get some people back into the taping soon as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's good. You know what's nice to hear? It's nice to hear all that, because all we've really heard about, especially in the last couple of weeks and the last few months, is all the negative about, you know, like what WWE have done wrong or what AEW have done wrong during the pandemic. But it's nice to hear it highlighted when companies and promotions have done good by their talent, by their staff, you know, and you don't often hear about, you know, the things that you've just said there, like Ring of Honor going to all those different steps, like those meticulous steps. I imagine, obviously, I've never been to one myself, but a TV taping, I imagine, takes sort of like a few hours, maybe half a day. But it sounds like these TV tapings that you're doing now, with taking apart the ring, taking apart the ropes, or this kind of thing, it must take a lot longer than you're used to.
Yeah, like the first one, I think the first one in August, like each day was like a 12-hour day, and like there wasn't many matches being filmed. But now it's kind of down to a science where they can, where, you know, it's still like kind of like a 10-12-hour day, but we're getting a lot more matches and content recorded during the time. So you also have to wear a face mask the whole time while you're there. Unless you're on camera. That's another thing too. Even with all these steps, like it's not like we're like hanging out like, oh, like, hey, like, you know, we're all good, you know. They're like, just in case something sneaks by, everybody's still got to wear the face mask and that sort of thing too. when I'll leave there, my ears will just be raw from
I
wearing
bet they will.
so long. So, but you know, that's the price you pay, right?
It is.
Absolutely, yeah. So like, I want to touch on something that I just mentioned there a little bit. A bit of recent news that we had, obviously, in the last week or two. What have you made of the recent batch of WWE releases? Obviously, they've released guys like Samoa Joe and the Iconics, and some really surprising ones. But are there any of those who you'd like to, or who you can see coming over to join you guys in Ring of Honor? Is there anyone that you'd like to wrestle that's been released? Like much the same way that EC3 was obviously released and then did the rounds a little bit, made his way to Ring of Honor, which was a great sign-in for everybody involved. But also, what I'd be interested to know is what side of the fence do you sit on? Are you with the people who think it's disgraceful that WWE release so many people, or are you more of the thought process that it's a good thing because now they can go elsewhere and get work somewhere else where they're going to be used, maybe?
First off, selfishly, for all those people released, you know, obviously I'm gonna be picking Samoa Joe.
Yes. How can you not? How can you not?
I mean, I did get the chance to wrestle Samoa Joe once in 2006. I mean, it wasn't much of a match, but I got to you know, get in the ring with him. So yeah, I would like to wrestle Samoa Joe, and I'd love to see Joe come home to Ring of Honor. You know, Joe
Definitely
really was one of the forefathers that helped put Ring of Honor on the map. His Ring of Honor World Title run is, yeah, I mean, you can't duplicate that.
No,
you know, like,
it's legendary.
Yeah. And as far as you know, guys getting released and that sort of thing, like, you know, for a long time, like, WWE was just like hoarding talent, and you know, guys would get signed and they'd be sitting in Florida or just sitting at home, and they would just be signed, so basically nobody else could have them.
Yeah.
And if you think back, like, years, I guess probably about 4 or 5 years now, you know, after WrestleMania, every year, you know, WWE would do their budget cuts and release guys and this and that. And I'm the guy. I'm on the side of like, hey, like, if you're not doing anything with them, yeah, release them. You know, like, there's no reason why, unless they want to stay there and just like sit around and get paid for all that time. You know, there's no reason why you should just, like, you know, have these guys in the primes of their career just sitting there doing nothing. You know, so let them go somewhere else. Let them flourish. But, you know, sometimes companies don't want to do that. They'd rather just hold on to them and, you know, make them miserable and this and that. But I think it's good for wrestling to keep people coming in, people coming out, changing. This guy goes there, this guy goes there. You know, it's the circle of life, and it's a circle of wrestling. You know, so I think it only helps in the long run.
And there's so many choices now, isn't there?
I like that. The circle of wrestling. I like that.
Yeah. There's just so many choices company-wise, though, isn't there now? I mean, don't get me wrong. I know these companies have always been around, but the eyes are on them. And that's kind of the difference now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to sound callous or anything. Like, I hate to see people lose their jobs.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially like your dream job. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's the wrestling business, and you got to make some hard choices sometimes. So you can't fault people for, you know, releasing people.
Definitely.
Even though they just made, like, you know, $1 billion, whatever it was, on the WWE network to Peacock. But it's one of those things where, you know,
it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, it's business.
It is. Yeah, I mean, talking about obviously where you've been in all around Ring of Honor for roughly probably half your life. You've been training there from 17. You've never really stepped outside the company for very long. Do you see yourself being an ROH lifer now, or do you have aspirations of going to maybe other companies down the line?
I mean, I would be very, very happy and very content to be with Ring of Honor for the rest of my wrestling career. It's home. You know, it's like one of those things where it may not, to me, like, thinking about, like, Ring of Honor with like myself not being there, it's just like, oh my gosh, like this can't happen, you know. But you know, eventually it's going to come to the day where, you know, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore, and I hope that, you know, there's something else that I could be doing there, maybe a backstage role or something along those lines. But it hurts to think about it, you know. But you know, it's always been home for me, and what it really comes down to is like my whole life, you know, I wanted to be a professional wrestler, like from like the moment they asked me in kindergarten, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, oh, well, you know, I want to be a pro wrestler. And like, that's what I drew on my little thing. And, you know, in kindergarten. And then, and, you know, like when you go through like high school and stuff, and, you know, when WCW and ECW went out of business, wrestling just wasn't as cool anymore. And like, it's not really drawing your attention. But then like all of a sudden my brother-in-law was like, hey, you want to go to this independent show with me? And I was like, you know, I'm good, you know. And then he's like, oh, well, Eddie Guerrero and Steve Corino are going to be there. And I was like, oh, well, those are my favorite wrestlers. So yeah,
I'll be there.
Go. Yeah. And that show just happened to be the first ever Ring of Honor show. And when I went there and saw wrestling as a sport as opposed to sports entertainment, I was like, oh my gosh, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do with my life. This is exactly where I want to be. And shortly after that, Ring of Honor opened up a school, and I wasn't old enough yet to join. I just kept bothering them and bothering them until finally at 17, they let me join with a like a parent, you know, signature or whatever, you know. But I mean, it's where I always wanted to be. So I'm very happy in the role that I am currently in there right now. So very, very happy and very, very blessed.
I love that story. That's a brilliant story. I mean, it's the one thing that we always talk about, isn't it? We always ask, like, sometimes we ask, like, what's your origin story? How did you start? How did you get into wrestling? But the fact that, you know, your first real live viewing of it is the company that you're heavily involved in.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That is cool to see.
Really cool, and it's even cooler to hear the name, just to hear the name Eddie Guerrero. You know, it makes my heart happy when I hear Eddie's name. He's one of my favorite guys. You know, devastated.
For sure, man.
What was he like live? I've never seen him live.
Oh well, first off, he came out to Rob Thomas and Santana Smooth, and like it was just like the coolest thing. Like, so Eddie Guerrero only did 2 shows with Ring of Honor, you know, their first show and their third show, because right after that first show he did with Ring of Honor, he got signed and brought back to WWE, and coming back to WWE, they put the Intercontinental title on him. So you know, when he was announced for the third show, I was like, he's probably not going to be there. He just won the Intercontinental title. And then all of a sudden, he's still there, and he brought the Intercontinental title with him. And it was like the coolest thing ever. And actually, his last match in Ring of Honor, it was himself and the Amazing Red wrestling against the SAT, or the Maximo Brothers, if you guys recall them. So I've been doing this series with Ring of Honor's YouTube, where Restoring Honor with Rhett Titus, where basically I'll go back in the vault and I'll take like old matches. And one of the matches that I took was Eddie Guerrero and Amazing Red versus the SAT. So and I'll kind of like give a little backstory to the matches, and you know, talk about, you know, things that are going on in Ring of Honor at the time, and just, you know, kind of try to bring it to the forefront so people see all these classic matches that you know people probably don't even know about. Like most Ring of Honor fans nowadays would probably not even know that Eddie Guerrero wrestled for Ring of Honor.
Exactly.
You know? So I'm trying to help people find these things out, and that's the latest one that comes out on Friday. So
check that out. Check that out.
So, I'll be checking that out as well.
Yeah, so you get to go back and watch a classic Eddie Guerrero match and a classic Ring of Honor match as well. So
brilliant.
Very nice, very cool, and Amazing Red as well. You know, can't say enough good things about Amazing Red as well.
No,
he was an inspiration to so many.
For sure.
Right, so bringing it back to current Ring of Honor again. Ring of Honor have made some really big strides recently. Obviously, coming back after everything was shut down for so long and the pure tournament and things like that. Signed some great names, as I said before, like EC3, Best Adele Ring, tied down talents like Rush and Dragon Lee on longer contracts. So first of all, like, what do you make of these signings? Like, do you think that they're going to help Ring of Honor to maybe reach that next level? Like, we love Ring of Honor. We want more eyes on Ring of Honor. So we love seeing talent like this come into the company. But what, as a guy within the company, what do you think Ring of Honor maybe need to do to reach that next level, to get more eyes on them, and to maybe get into the conversation of, like your Impact, your AEW, and your WWEs?
Well, I think it's just one of those things where a lot of people just don't know where to watch Ring of Honor, and I think that's a big problem. But Ring of Honor is a lot more available than some like Impact per se, right?
Yep.
Like, a lot more areas, probably get Ring of Honor than Impact. And a lot of people just don't know that they even get Ring of Honor, Like, for the longest time, I was getting Ring of Honor, and I didn't even know it on my team.
Oh, wait, like, there's me.
Literally, that's how it went down. One day I was just flipping through a channel. I was on a random Sunday, and what? Ring of Honor? So
I recognize him.
Yeah, so basically, like, if you search Ring of Honor on your TV, in the States for the most part, it's syndicated all across the country. And some of the time slots aren't the greatest, but, some of the time slots are like your old school Saturday morning wrestling time slots, which, growing up as a kid, that was like the greatest. You'd wake up and you'd eat cereal and you'd watch cartoons and you'd watch, wrestling on a Saturday morning. It was like, the best thing as a kid,
Yeah.
And like, but like the cool thing about Ring of Honor is like, another thing I just found out yesterday is if you guys have the Amazon Fire Stick, the Honor Club is on the Fire Stick, and you can watch.
Right.
Yeah, dude, I just found it out yesterday because I was actually asking about it back in like December. I was like, oh man, like, when are we gonna get on an app on the Fire Stick? And they're like, oh yeah, it's something that's being worked on. I was like, all right, cool. Maybe like this time next year, I'll be able to do it. And then all of a sudden, like yesterday, I'm like looking through, and I'm like, oh, Ring of Honor's on the. Why isn't this being promoted?
That's the problem, isn't it?
And then like another cool thing too that Ring of Honor doesn't get enough credit for is like the Stir app, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Stir app is an app that's owned by Sinclair Broadcast, so which owns Ring of Honor, and like Ring of Honor has their own 24/7 streaming channel on there where you can just turn it on and oh, there's Ring of Honor, and it's really cool. And like not only all this, but also you can watch it on Fight TV as well too. So every Monday at 7:00, the new episode comes out. And if you follow along on Twitter, #WatchROH, all the wrestlers are tweeting along with the latest episode and giving their thoughts and feedback and that sort of stuff. So it's always a fun time. So, 7:00 on Mondays is probably the best time to catch Ring of Honor and the easiest place to do it,
Excellent. So check it out on all of those platforms. Make sure you do.
Yeah. Whenever I watch, it's on Fight. It's on Fight TV. We love Fight
same
TV.
with us.
Yeah, it's easy, and accessible, and there's a lot of different places to watch it. You just gotta kind of pick what's the best platform for my TV or whatever where your location is.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so check it out, all the platforms that you can. Let's bring it back a bit. So at Final Battle, you had 4 tag team partners, and you've always been known as somewhat of a tag team specialist. You mentioned before you're a huge fan of that type of wrestling. What do you make of the recent resurgence of tag team wrestling as a whole? Obviously, WWE aren't really the best, but you've got AEW who like to shine a light on it. You've got Impact who like to shine a light on it. So what do you make of tag team wrestling at the moment?
To be honest, tag team wrestling in 2021, there's a lot of
That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
Yeah, there's a lot of things wrong with it, and I'm not gonna try to beat around the bush and say, oh, like, tag team wrestling. Some tag teams do tag team wrestling properly, and some just kind of go out there and say, hey, this referee over here, he don't matter. Like these rules that are in place for tag team wrestling, we're not gonna follow them. But like the cool thing about Final Battle was the first ever Pure Rules tag team match, which was myself and Tracy Williams versus Wheeler Yuta and Fred Yehai. So and the cool thing about it was, like, up until that point, I had never teamed with Tracy, and Wheeler and Fred Yehai had never teamed together. But like the thing is, like, if like you follow the rules and really get back to what tag team wrestling is built upon, and man, like, it can be so great, like, not everything has to like just be four guys all at once just going crazy and trying to do like this crazy stuff. Like, it's like, dude, like, come on, like, let's just like be different than everything else. And that's like what me and Tracy are going to be trying to do as Ring of Honor tag team champions is, and what the foundation has been trying to do is like restore the honor, bring, purify each division and bring the rules back to each division. And man, like let's like bring tag team wrestling back to what it was. I love tag team wrestling, and I love helping like tag teams try to like, really like, oh wow, like that makes a lot of sense, because I was once in their position, and like I wanted to do like everything and like make it look so cool, but like Jim Cornette was one of those guys that like helped me out big time. Like I'll never forget like Jim Cornette just being like, oh man, like this isn't how you do it, this is how you do it. And I was like, oh wow, that makes so much sense. And like I love being in a position now where I can like sit younger tag teams down and be like, hey guys, like, you ever think about doing it like this?
Yeah.
Oh wow. that helps us do exactly what we want to do, but it all stays in the rules of the match and the psychology of the match, and wow, it works out for everybody that way. Yeah, it's what it's supposed to be. And in 2021, it's kind of gone away a little bit, and myself and Hot Sauce, we're going to try bringing it back, and we're going to try to bring the rules back and try to do everything by the book. And hey, hopefully we can spread a little wildfire amongst tag team wrestling throughout the rest of it to help it along the way.
We've spoken about it before, haven't we, Faz? Like WWE haven't
they don't care.
Yeah, they've not really made any secret of the fact that they don't really value tag team wrestling. That's why we see the same matches for months and months and months, no real development. But then you got AEW on the other hand, who seem on the surface like they care more, but with AEW it's almost like they're doing too much and they're trying too hard, because every other match is a tag match and
with flips all over the place. And
it's not even just a 2v2. You've got, in most shows it's 3v3, 4v4. They quite often have 5v5, and like nowhere other than Ring of Honor.
7 versus 7.
Yeah,
exactly. It's crazy, and only off the top of my head, really, it is just Ring of Honor and maybe a little bit Impact that are actually giving us traditional, good old-fashioned 2 guys versus 2 guys just beating the hell out of each other. And that's what I love to see.
It's the psychology though, isn't it? It's, as you said before, it's the psychology of the match. A lot of people, it's what we see nowadays in most of these companies. It's one person will come in, do all their moves, just tag out. One person will come in, do all their moves and just tag out. There's no psychology there in terms of what that partner's doing. Them 2 working together. That's missed these days.
Yeah, and like part of the problem is like a lot of guys will see like take a tag team like the Young Bucks, for example, right? And they'll be like, oh my gosh, well, if this is working for the Young Bucks, like, let's make it work for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't really look at some of the smaller nuanced things that they're doing to try to, they just see like the explosions that they're doing, like the big moves and like the big sequences and those sorts of things. But they're not really looking at the why and the psychology behind the thing. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's going to take a little bit of time, but myself, Hot Sauce, we're very hell bent on, and the rest of the foundation as well, because Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham, another great tag team as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're gonna really try help rectifying this situation.
Excellent. What was just before we move on, what was your favorite tag team growing up?
My favorite tag team growing up,
So many choices. So many choices.
The crazy part is, like, I was never really a fan of tag team wrestling. It's not that I wasn't a fan of tag team wrestling. It's just that I found so much more of a respect for tag team wrestling after I got into tag team wrestling. Yeah. So like, even like when I got into wrestling, like, I had like no aspirations to be a tag team wrestler or anything like that. I just wanted to, like, do my own thing. And then, when Adam Pearce took in control of Ring of Honor, he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna put you and Kenny King together." And I was like, "Oh man!" And Kenny, he was like, "Oh, I don't want to team with him." And then, like,
fire.
Yeah, and it's just like, all right, like, but like, the thing was, I never had any problems with tag team wrestling. It's just that I didn't know about it. I didn't know enough about it. And like, once I started learning more and more and more about tag team wrestling, I was like, wow, like, and then all of a sudden, like, before I knew it, like, I was labeled as like a tag team specialist. And like, I got to team with a bunch of different people and be in a lot of different tag teams and learn from different people. And like, the same thing with Tracy Williams. He did the same amongst the indies and even in Ring of Honor. And so when we came together, it wasn't that far-fetched to where, hey, this really works well together, because we had all these different experiences with all these different people, and it just made for a better presentation for ourselves,
Definitely.
But looking back now, like, as far as my favorite tag team, probably as a kid, it was probably the Rockers, just because, like, they were just so flash, so cool. And but looking back now, as a wrestler, looking back on all my favorite tag teams over the years, it's up there. It's either Orin Tully or the Midnight Express.
Oh, very good choices.
Yeah,
very good choices.
It's one or the other,
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you mentioned Kenny King, actually, because I wanted to ask. We've had Kenny on the show before a few months ago, and he's a brilliant guest.
Fantastic.
But we never spoke to him about this incident that I wanted to ask you about. I believe at the time you guys were tag champs, and it was around the time when when Kenny was set to leave for Impact, but then there was sort of like there was an issue there around Hernandez and Lucha Underground, and they ended up not even using Kenny on Impact, I believe. But how did you feel at the time? Because you had to vacate the tag team titles, didn't you, at the time, so that Kenny could go off and do that. Then he wasn't even used, so that obviously put you in a situation where you were no longer tag champ, you were no longer in a tag team with your friend Kenny King. He wasn't even used for the reason that you guys were split up for. Did you keep in touch with Kenny during that time? Like, was there ever any talk about maybe you going with him or anything happened there?
So there's two instances that you got a little jumbled all into one. So basically, I'll help put the pieces to the puzzle together. But me and Kenny, we're Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. And then before we ever even got to defend the titles, about 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, Kenny King pops up on Impact TV. Kenny King gets fired from Ring of Honor, and I get stripped of the Ring of Honor tag titles along with Kenny, So yeah, so after all that time working to get to the titles, just kind of the rug got pulled up from underneath me. So and Kenny then signed with Impact and was there, and I kept in touch with Kenny. We even randomly tag teamed again on a indie show during that time while he was with TNA, Impact, whatever. For some reason, I always still call it TNA.
Yeah, they can't get rid of that name.
But so Kenny was there, and he was in the Beatdown Clan eventually, and then Hernandez came over, but was locked in the Lucha Underground contract, and they had like 8 weeks of TV that they couldn't do anything with, where they had to scrap it all. And like, I know Kenny had like a cage match in there, like he like jumped off the cage, and it was like a lot of cool stuff that all got scrapped. He was very upset about it. They actually went ahead and even restructured his contract at that point to make it a per appearance deal. And like, he hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, like, you think there's anything to me coming back to Ring of Honor?" And I was like, I'll see what I can do. And I put it in front of the powers that be, and all of a sudden, before you knew it, myself and Kenny King were answering the Briscoe Brothers Open Challenge at the All-Star Extravaganza live on pay-per-view, and the All Night Express was back together and better than ever. So and then a few months, probably about a year later or so, myself, Kenny King, Caprice Coleman, Shane Taylor, we lost a loser breaks up match against Search and Destroy, and we had to break up. And then I started teaming with Will Ferrara, and so from the time where I originally won the tag titles until just winning the tag titles at the pay-per-view recently, it was a very, very close to nine years.
Wow.
So just a few months shy of 9 years, but
that's insane.
I mean, it's like one of those things though, where like I won the tag titles, but I always felt like I didn't, because I never got to be like a fighting champion or defend the belts or anything like that, or just have your moment in the sun as the champion, because it kind of got taken away from me. But it felt much better being that I got to take the titles back off of Kenny King. So
retribution.
Retribution. But I mean, it was like one of those things. It all came together in the end, So it took a little longer than I may have wanted, but now hey man, I want to hit the ground running with these belts myself. Hot sauce.
Yeah, man.
Let's go, boys.
Can't wait to see what you can do. Right, we'll shift focus a little bit. We know that you've done like small little bits of work for WWE in the past. What was the process and atmosphere like on a WWE TV day? And did you have any discussions about staying or doing more for them? Like, did you want to do the Bad Bunny thing at WrestleMania?
So like that was during like a period where so I lost like a loser leaves town match from Ring of Honor, essentially the steel cage warfare match where Scum lost and we had to disband and be kicked out of Ring of Honor. And during that time, the Romantic Touch all of a sudden popped into Ring of Honor, and I was just fiddling around with a little other things with WWE and that sort of stuff. But like, as far as the process of just being there and doing their thing, it's like it's a little crazy. It's like, man, like I'll never forget, like I did this like segment with Vince McMahon and Vicky Guerrero and Brad Maddox. I mean, I wasn't really much part of the segment. I was just kind of a guy standing in the background. But it's like, man, like why they're shooting it live. So it's like, why didn't they shoot it during the commercial break and just like dub it in? Like that's like my train of thought. So just in the crazy aspect, if something were to happen to go wrong, where like, I mean, a few weeks ago, Matt Riddle just forgot his line.
It was brilliant.
Yeah. It's like, well, why didn't we just shoot it during the commercial break? But hey, that's the way they do things. It's been working pretty well for them for a long time. So, hey, I'm not gonna say nothing. You know, like,
yeah. Hey, Vince.
Yeah. But man, like, or not even during the commercial break. Why not earlier in the day? But,
Exactly.
hey, but it was really crazy thing because it was like, all right, this segment's going on like now, and it's like, all right, I'm here, and then like all of a sudden, like Vince walks back from his he had a promo out in front of the live crowd to do, and he walks back through the curtain, and it's like, I mean, like 45 seconds until they come back up from the commercial break and into the segment, and he's like, all right, what's the segment? And it's like, wait, he doesn't even really know what's going on here.
That explains a lot, doesn't it? It explains a lot.
And like they're like putting it all together like during the commercial break. I'm like, man, wow. And then poof, there it goes, and it's all just, and it just seems like
it was all planned.
Fine,
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But you know, it's not always the case, you know. Matt Riddle, love the guy, but hey, it happens, you know?
Especially Matt Riddle. That's one person you know is going to do it, don't you?
But,
did you meet, like, did you get a chance to speak to anyone like Vince or any WWE officials or any management or anything like that?
I mean, it's one of those things where you're kind of given direct detail, like not to.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was just kind of one point where it was just like me and Vince like walking down the same hallway, and it would have been really weird not to say anything. So I just said, "Hello, sir. How are we doing today?" And he said, "How are we doing?" But I mean, one of my biggest takeaways from doing extra work and all that sort of thing was like my first time being there. You know, obviously you're nervous and that sort of stuff, and I had just gotten there, and I'm like waiting outside of talent relations, and I'm like, you know, nervous, and I'm with the other extras, and I'll never forget it because it meant a lot to me, because CM Punk walked right out of the talent relations locker room, walked right out, and all the extras were waiting there, and he walked by everybody, and he stopped, he turned around, he looked right at me, and he came right up to me, and he said, "Hey, it's a pleasure having you here. Thanks for being here." And he shook my hand. I was like, wow.
Wow.
And, you know, obviously I had known Punk from Ring of Honor, and Punk had did my original tryout to get into the Ring of Honor school because he was the trainer at the time, but right after I did that tryout, he got signed to WWE, so he wasn't really any hands-on in the actual training. But for me to get into the school, I had to get in through Punk and Joe. So, and like, dude, like Punk's tryout was like 500 squats, like 110 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, sprints, gassers, lunges, sideway lunges, like running around the block, like so much stuff. Like,
wow.
But like, I wasn't going to be deterred by anything. I remember, you know, I was 17 at the time, and my dad was like, dude, like, if you want to quit, I'm not going to be mad about the $50 it costs to do the tryout. Go ahead. I'm like, no, I'm doing this. Like, this is what I got to do to get in. And I was hell bent, and I couldn't walk for a week afterwards. But I got into the school, so all's well that ends well.
Baptism by fire, as they say. Baptism by fire.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, we've come to our last question. Again, we want to say thank you so much for spending a few hours with us. But what's next for Rhett Titus in 2021, especially as things start to get back to normal? As you said, hopefully fans coming in. But what is next for yourself?
I mean, currently I'm one half of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, and hey, man, I'm trying to bring those tag titles back. I'm trying to bring tag team wrestling back. I'm trying to bring everything that you would think about tag teams back to the forefront and kind of do away with a little bit of the tag team wrestling that we've seen over the past few years and kind of bring real tag team wrestling and tag teams that actually move and operate as a unit back to the forefront. All of it.
Excellent.
And hey, who the hell knows what can happen by the end of the year. I would personally like to have some singles gold as well in Ring of Honor.
Yes.
I mean, Tracy Williams, my tag partner, he has tag gold and a singles title right now.
Why
I
not?
would like to do the same.
Why
right
not?
now, I think I'm ranked 2 in the pure title division. I mean, Jonathan Gresham holds the pure title, but a few weeks ago, he just defended against Jay Lethal.
Why not your turn?
Yeah, might be my turn.
Let me. I'm just going to throw one quick bonus question in there that we hadn't even thought about. If you could just like throw out an open challenge on Ring of Honor next week and just say any tag team in the world shows up, if you could pick any one current active tag team to come and challenge you guys for your titles, who would it be from any promotion?
The Rock and Roll Express.
Simple.
Bro, I was just on a show with them on Saturday. Like,
they can still go.
Let's go. It's like a big dream match of mine, you know.
That would be awesome.
Big.
That would be awesome. Before you go, Rhett, is there anything you want to plug, social media wise or shop wise?
Yes, please. Twitter and Instagram at Rhett Titus ANX. That's RHETTTITUS ANX. And also Facebook.com/Rhett Titus. I'm on TikTok at Rhett Titus. Don't really know what I'm doing on there, but I'm
yeah, same with us.
And then YouTube.com/Rhett Titus. I'm always trying to put out new videos, stuff like that. And then ProWrestlingTees.com/Rhett Titus ANX. And also ShopHonor.com. Search Rhett Titus. Got my t-shirt up on there as well. And check out the video dropping on Friday. I'm not sure when this one will be dropping, but
either way, yeah. Just keep looking.
Check
keep
it out.
checking it out.
Restoring Honor with Rhett Titus. YouTube.com/Ring of Honor. Hey, there's a lot of places to find me. And always a Google search will get you along the way too.
Exactly. And you can find me at Faz's Thoughts. That's FAZZAS Thoughts. And Mr. D's, you want to plug yourself and the pod?
Yeah, you can find me at PWCDs. Everywhere that you can find anything, you will find us at It's Our House Pod. Hit up our link tree. It's got everything, every single thing on there.
Excellent. And we want to thank you again, Rhett, for spending your time with us. And we will
you.
see you all in the next one. Take it easy, folks.
Thank you, boys.